Seven-figure success starts when you start thinking like a CEO. Welcome to the John Kitchens Coach Podcast Experience. This is your host, John Kitchens. Get ready to think bigger and transform your business into a path to lasting freedom. What is happening, everybody, man? Thank you guys jumping into another episode of One Big Fire. And we definitely got some fire today. And you guys are in for a treat. I know, Al, we've had the opportunity to share the stage with Amy. I've had Amy on Expert Mentors, and just an absolute fireball, and being able to just bring the heat and really what, the whole One Big Fire conversation and community is all about is, we burn a lot brighter when we all come together and really help each other grow. And today is no different. Amy, welcome. Excited to have you on, and would love to just have you start unpacking your story. Before we went live, Al was kind of talking about how powerful your story is. I know we got to share it on Expert Mentors, and you definitely are a true inspiration and able to push through some limiting beliefs that a lot of folks have out there, especially when it comes to production, to life, and to agent attraction.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think real estate has really been the surprise of my life. I really thought I would just get married, be a stay-at-home mom, have a bunch of kids. And I did do all that. But then real estate's kind of been this surprise, and it's been a really fun game to sit and play in. And it really parallels. I always say, you should build your business like a mother, and inside as a mom, I have a son who's 18. He's graduating high school. He's getting ready to leave the house. And your job is actually to work yourself out of a job so that your kids become self-sufficient, right? And then you kind of mirror this into this EXP model and how you're allowed to play with agents in a sense of no, my job is to help you be self-sufficient inside your business. And so it's been this really in all candor, it's been a spiritual journey of oh, this is all the same. If it's a good life principle, it's a good business principle, and you should just double down on it and go full steam.
Yeah, that's so good. So Amy, unpack a little bit, because, how you got into real estate and how you navigated real estate. And, we hear, keep the kids out of it. I mean, you're literally baby on hip showing properties. So you really blow through a lot of limiting beliefs.
Because it's I'm not, let's be really clear. I'm not showing up to listing appointments with a baby on my hip. I'm not doing that. Let's not, whatever. I just am not hiding the fact that I have 4 kids. And I actually didn't know this was a problem for women in real estate. I've actually had the fortunate benefit. When I started back in real estate, I was at the table with the guys that founded Invitation Homes. I was at a freaking cool table. You know what I mean? And they already knew, we were personal friends. And I was I don't know, I'm going to go sell some houses. And they were all right, cool. And they were flipping houses. And I was naive enough to be by the way, you're flipping your houses wrong, which I had no business saying, right? But I was kind of being you guys, you should work with an interior designer, and you should brand them, and you should put it on social media and tell the story. And they were kind of all right, let's try it. And so I brought my friend in that was an interior designer, and we flipped a couple of houses, set a couple of records on it. And then that was kind of the snowball of oh, this whole social media thing really does work, right? And so then we had the pandemic hit, and that was another big, huge shift where it was suddenly my husband was working from home, and it's what was it, the guy on the news where his kid came in on the scooter thing, right? And it totally went viral. And it was that had literally been my life for 3 or 4 years. And I just thought, oh, I have an unfair advantage because I already know how to build at home with kids in the background, because kids had always been in the background. And I remember closing deals being behind my bedroom door, behind my bathroom door, behind my closet door with a 2-year-old freaking out on the other side of the door. And I don't know, you're going to have to freak out for 20 minutes because I am closing this deal. And then I would come back out and be hey, it's all good. We're good. And now my kids kind of know that rhythm. If I'm behind a closed door, they know give her 20 minutes and then she'll be back out. But I sometimes think, looking at social media, they're oh, well, her kids must always behave, and she's never had to lock us in a car or in a closet to close the deal. Absolutely, we have done that. Absolutely. And I think that's part of being in real estate. You have to be a little bit scrappy, and you have to look for the opportunities, and you have to you have to go when it's time to go. You can't like push it off. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. When I was coming up, my boys were little, and their mom was working every Saturday. That was my day. We would, most of the time we'd go skiing, or if it was in the winter. But in the summer, if I had to show a house, I brought them along. My boys, they showed a few houses with me, and I don't know how people like you're able to juggle so much, because just forget about the real estate piece. Just the full-time mom thing is probably one of the hardest jobs in the world. You pile on a real estate career on top of that and make it all happen, you're just a superwoman. I just,
will you tell my kids that when they come home from school? Will you tell them that for me? There is this emotional bandwidth, right? Where I always say you're like, I'm emotionally processing for 4 other humans inside our household. And the older they get, the more emotional processing you're doing. And it tends to happen at 12:30 at night with teenagers, right? So people think, oh, I have newborns and then I'm going to sleep when they're teenagers. Like, hard no. Like, you can hire a babysitter when your kids are little and you can go out. Like, you cannot go out. Like, you are the babysitter. I can't hire a babysitter. And I have to do like 007 kind of recon work of knowing like, well, who are you hanging out with, and how does that person know this person, and where are you really? You're telling me this, but maybe it's kind of this, right? But actually, that skill set is phenomenal inside of real estate, because you have to like piece together, okay, why are you moving? What are you actually looking for? Like, inside a transaction, people are like telling you one thing and you're like, that's not actually why you're moving. You're moving because of this. And so if I can read between the lines, I can get them to their solution so much faster. And for them, it feels like magic, right?
Yeah.
But that is just like, that's like the emotional intelligence that comes from like motherhood, where it's like my teenager comes in and they slam the door and you think they're like annoyed at you. And you're like, oh, no. Something went down at school today. And my job is to figure out what went down at school today. So I can't take that behavior personal, right? And inside a transaction, you have clients who misbehave all the time because they're under so much stress in the transaction. And this ability to like not take it personal and be like, well, what is actually triggering you? And being able to go and solve that is literally it's like my superpower, right? Yeah. And that's been the most fun thing to see like parallel inside my business. It's really cool.
They should actually make that a required course. They got law, they got all appraisal and all these things that we're supposed to, be efficient with before we take the test and become a real estate. What about emotional intelligence?
100%.
I needed a course on that shit. Because I remember the first deal I had, and I lost my shit. This agent was just being a goofball, right? And I called my dad, and my dad had been licensed a while, and he said, and my dad's real low key. He's like, son, if you're gonna let this bother you, you're gonna have a short career here in this business. And I'll never forget that. And it kind of checked me like, all right, I'm being paid to be level-headed here.
It's so funny because my dad's an attorney, and so I can always talk to my dad under the umbrella of attorney-client privilege. And there's been a couple of phone calls. It was last week where I'm like, no, this person has legit been dishonest, and I'm like, well, I'm ready to go to war. And my dad's like, well, if you really want to go to war, like, isn't it better if that person doesn't know that you know? So then you can like covertly work behind the scenes. Like, you should just like, he's like, also cost of doing business, like, welcome, like, put on your big girl pants and like, welcome to the club. Like, you better like toughen up. And I was like, dang, okay, fine. I will close my laptop on the email I was going to send, I write a great email,
Oh yeah.
I'm fired up. I'm funny. And I like hit below the belt a little bit. And it was a great piece of work that I had to just close.
Right. Sometimes just getting that out and not hitting send helps.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's a skill set, right?
It is, yeah.
You gotta know when to punch and you gotta know when to just like be quiet. And that's been an exercise for me as well, for sure.
I think so. I think, wasn't it Abraham Lincoln that they found so many letters that he did never send, but it was the same thing, right? He wrote it, he got it out. Nobody ever saw them, but it was just being able to release that thought and in the emotion and not being able to hold it in. Really, really powerful. So Amy, I would love just kind of your thought process of being able to just manage, right? Like you're juggling the family, the family dynamics, the personalities, juggling, what you have to do, your obligations as a mom, as obligations as a wife, being able to make sure the house stays together, also producing, also working, from a production side of things. I mean, are there some grounding principles for you, some routines, some habits that allow you to stay on top of things that have allowed you to keep your sanity and keep things moving forward?
Absolutely. And I think before I break that down, I'll give us a broad snapshot of kind of the revenue streams, right? Because when we're really talking about building a business, agents will always focus 100% on transactions. And I think transactions are awesome and they're the bedrock of your business. You better know how to do transactions. But if you're looking to build something long-term, which again, it goes back to this family principle, like you're looking to build like a legacy, right? So you have to say like, my kids should outproduce me. So how do I make the people behind me outproduce me? And so it is these like really grounding thought patterns. So transactions is one of my revenue streams, but no one would call me like, you're never going to see me up on a business of like, oh, copy Amy's transaction business. I think people should actually copy it because I close probably between like 8 to 10 million every year. But the kicker it is I do that working 10 hours a week. So I kind of allot 10 hours a week to my transactions. And there's a strategy to doing that in 10 hours a week. You got to be listing heavy. You got to increase your price point and you have to decrease your commute. I am not driving across town for your $500,000 buyer. I'm not doing it. I'm going to instead refer that out. I'm going to pull out a referral fee on that. And it's going to like operate without me, right? Because I'm going to just go and sell literally 10 $1 million houses within 5 minutes of me. Mm-hmm. Right. So that means I'm just listing, I'm shooting videos, I'm showing up on social media. I can manage my time on that so much better. And my skill set is in bringing in offers, structuring a great deal for buyers and sellers, like putting together a really clean deal where it feels win-win. So and frankly, if you're doing 10 million in 10 hours a week, like your hourly rate on that business is phenomenal. Yep. And I'm running that at like a 90% profit margin. So like, tell me why we're not putting that business up on stage. Because I remember like my first year, I broke 100K, like my first year in real estate. And I was pregnant with my fourth baby. I worked 10 hours a week. I had that baby in October. So with the exception of one listing, I took the last 2 months of the year off. And I thought, oh crap, this is a cool gig. Like I'm doing this while my kid's at preschool. Like what else am I doing? Literally nothing. I'm like, this is awesome. And then, so we have transactions. That's one revenue stream. And then the EXP model, I have this rule of 3 in my business where if I see something 3 times, I pay attention to it. Like it has to come from 3 different sources. So I saw EXP. One was from GoGo because she was one of the only agents that was kind of using social media like I was at the time. So I saw it from GoGo. I heard about it on a podcast where they were making fun of it. And then I had a neighbor who's an agent kind of like, oh, have you heard this thing about EXP? And I thought, oh, what is this thing? And I thought, well, I'm just going to ask GoGo because I don't even know her. And I don't ever have to see her again. And she sent me like that very old school, like Brent Gove EXP explained video. It was like 7 minutes long. And I watched it. And then I like watched it again. I probably watched it 20 times. And then I got a piece of paper out. Like it was literally like a number 2 pencil while my kid was doing homework next to me. And I just sat and like ran the math of like, well, if this, then this, and if this, then this, and if this, then this. And I was like, oh crap, I already know how to use social media. I already like have the distribution for this. Like, it's not about having the best idea. It's about having the best distribution. And you have to remember, I was sitting at the table with the guys that founded Invitation Homes. And so I went to the table and I'm like, okay, you guys were like, they were like saying, Amy, you can like start recruiting agents. That idea was already like in my head. They were like, if you want to build out the brokerage, like, sure, go ahead. Like you're having fun with it. We don't really care. Like do what you want. We'll cut you into their deals. And I was like, wait, that's cool. But I'm like literally limited to like this little box locally. And then I'm going to end up training all my competition right here in this little local market because everyone was asking me how I was using social media. And so I said to him, I'm like, well, why wouldn't I just go do that at EXP? And they kind of got the wheels turning, and they were like, well, we could compete with that. Like, we've got the accounting staff. If you want to build something like that, let's build it. And I'm like, yeah, but it's already been built. Like, why don't I just go try it? And then if it doesn't work, I'll just come back and we'll build something else. And they were like, okay, go try it. And I was like, all right. So I like moved over to EXP knowing 100% I was going to like recruit agents. I had no idea how I was going to do it, because you have to remember, I was like literally doing 5 million in production, working 10 hours a week. I had no business like recruiting agents. And then you start to get in the room with like guys like you and like Dan Beer and Kyle Whistle. And I'm like, oh, wow, I'm like way out over my skis. Like, I have like, how am I going to compete with these guys? You know what I mean? Like, there's no, like, all of a sudden you're like in a whole other arena. And I was like, okay.
But Amy, you know, you're not competing with those other people or us, because your audience is a different audience, and you connect like we can't even connect with your audience like you do. You do it naturally.
No, but there was a process to figuring that out. And I think that's what people think, oh, that just came natural to Amy. And it did not. Like, I accidentally got invited to one of Dan and Kyle's events because I had recruited enough agents to be there. And then I was like, one of these things is not like the other, and it's me. It is 100% me. Like, I'm sitting next to Tina Call, who's like sold a gajillion houses. And I'm like, I just do like 5 million in 10 hours a week, and I got to go pick my kids up. I don't really know what I'm doing, like, whatever. And I'm like, but all of a sudden I thought, well, maybe I have to build this big local team. And I kind of really like struggled with that. I talked to a lot of people about it. And then I just finally asked a question. I was like, well, where are all the agents like me? Like, I kept going into these rooms and I never saw myself. I was at like it was like an EXP event for like an EXP sprint and something. It was at the Phoenician or something in Phoenix. And again, I was literally the only female solo in that room. And I was like, well, where are all of them? And so I just asked about it on social media, and my DMs blew up. And women were just like, oh yeah, my broker tells me I should door knock with 4 kids in the wagon. And I'm like, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. I'm like, why don't you just take your kids to the park? Like, literally, this is how simple it is. Just take your kids to the park and you'll literally know who has the job offer, who has kids graduating, why they're downsizing, whose parents are moving. Like, before social media, it was just your mom. Your mom was the social network. She knew everything, you know? And if you just go sit in the room, you know. And so I just started talking to like that female solo agent, and it just blew up. And I just primarily focused on solving her problems in her business, right? So that same superpower of like reading between the lines and understanding like that emotional intelligence of like why my kids had a bad day, I could go and look at their businesses and say like, what is their pain point? And for a lot of them, they just had brokers that were telling them that their business sucked. And I'm like, are you out of your mind? I was bringing home $100,000 working 10 hours a week. Tell me who's sad about that business. I mean, like, no one is sad about that business. I'm like, that's a freaking awesome business. So I just started pointing out, like, does your business suck, or do they just not get your business? And it's more so that they just don't get your business. Like, I don't want to manage a big local team. I don't want to do that. That sounds like torture to me. I love like closing 10 $1 million houses. That is so fun to me, right? And it's a great business. And then you add in like the aspect of being able to like build out revenue share with EXP. And then there's digital products, which has been huge in my business as well. And it's like, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, it really, really is. And I love on, knowing your lane and got real clear on your audience, and your audience was who you were and who you once were. Mm-hmm. And that's just just a great lesson. And so it's the whole, right, we're best equipped to serve the person that we once were. And you leaned right into it, and at a high level, which is really, really awesome. I do have a production question, Amy. Like you had mentioned, kind of pandemic, everything going kind of virtual. Is there an element within the production side of your business that you use video instead of, like you said, your sandbox, you don't travel outside of it? Do you incorporate video to be able to still have those meetings instead of getting in the car, even locally, or going too far outside of your geographical area?
No, not totally. I really don't, because I just think that like selling your house is a big deal to someone, and like you should just show up. And it actually is like, that's what spirals like all the referrals. Now, do I show video? Like I'm on Instagram all the time, right? And there's a science to Instagram, and there's a science to making that work for you. Like there is a recipe. And so I understand the recipe, and I just keep baking the cookies. You know what I mean? Like that, it's like when you have the recipe, you just bake the cookies. It's not that hard. And so I do show up in person quite a bit. I don't know. I didn't really even answer your first question of like, what's the day to day of like running it all, and like the bandwidth of all of these things. And I think some of this is you have to bucket your times a little bit. So like social media is my job. I literally have people that will, shoot me messages and be like, well, there's just a lot of things going on. I don't want to show up on social media. And I'm like, well, I mean, how do you think your kid's teacher feels? You think they don't have anything going on, but they're still at school teaching, and the grocery clerk is still at the grocery store, and the police officer is still at work. Like social media is my job. That is my job. And so regardless of what's going on in my life, you have to like bucket things into your job. And there is a time where it's like my phone's away. I will say one of the things I do, and I used to do this, I don't do it consistently as much, but when my kids were younger, I would put my phone away from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. because that's like when they were coming in the door and we were doing homework and we were getting out to practices. But that meant that I had to make sure my deals were tidied up and nothing was going to hit the fan between 3 and 5, right? So you had to be a little bit more proactive on some of those things. But also like as real estate agents, there's a season where you can't do that. Like in 2021, I couldn't do that because if something came on the market, you better be there or it's gone. Right. And so you have to be a little bit self-aware. And so sometimes your family is the sacrifice, and sometimes your business is the sacrifice. You're not running everything at 100% capacity all of the time. That is an unrealistic expectation for anyone.
Amy, at what point did you say to yourself, okay, I need some leverage here. I need a personal assistant. I know you run solo. You're not the team thing. And I love that. I love the model, but I'm assuming you have to have a personal assistant, right? That helps you connect across. No. I do. I have one admin that works part-time hours for me. And then, yeah. You are Superwoman. Holy moly.
I'm efficient.
Yep.
And I say no to a lot of things. I understand where my highest margins are, and I only pay attention to that. And that means, again, you can't run 100% on everything all of the time. So I know where my highest hourly rate is, and I make sure that gets done every single day. Every single day. And then guess what? If something else doesn't get done, okay, it's fine. Because this is running. It's built. I call transactions the golden handcuffs of real estate. You get fired every 30 days, but that paycheck is nice. And so you keep circling back to it. But like so many agents get into real estate thinking like, oh, I'm going to sell some houses and I'm going to go buy investment properties and I'm going to create this residual revenue stream. And you're like, I think everyone should create a residual revenue stream, but the best way to do it is at a cloud-based brokerage. An EXP is the best cloud-based brokerage. Like the math is the math. Like the math does not lie. And so like you just do the math and you say, okay, great. Mathematically, this not only mathematically does it make the most sense, but if you think about it, Glenn Sanford is the person that figured out the cloud-based brokerage. So he is the visionary in it, right? No other brokerage has the visionary. So like when the market shifts again, what umbrella do you want to be under? I would like to follow that person that already pioneered it, because when you've already pioneered something, you know how to pioneer something again. Like I'm good at I can be a really great follower when I need to be. And that's the person I'm going to like align with. And the other thing on like the investment property standpoint is it's like, there's like a high upfront cost to it. Whereas on the revenue share side of things, it's just like some sweat equity.
Yeah.
So
you're language right now.
Yeah.
This is, everything from dollar per hour.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote all the things down. Everybody's been there. I'm like, man, this is it. Like when you talk about margin and efficiency, like that's really where it is. Like that is your superpower, is efficiency. Like you understand where the dollars are and for your time. And I think most people miss that.
Grossly miss it.
Right.
Grossly miss it.
And I love what you said too about at the end of the day, you're not going to ever get it all done. But if you get the right things done, there's not a day that everything's going to be crossed off the list. But you know that you did the right things in the right order. It's why we used to have the top 5 and top 1 of 5. What's the number one thing I'm doing today? And what are the 5 things I'm putting in my calendar? And if you get those things done, you feel really good at the end of the day because you did the right things. And you just do that at such a high level.
Well, yeah. And it's just this pattern. It's like being consistent. And this is the other thing that I don't think agents realize is you have to be consistent for a period of time before you get some like major windfall and major momentum in your business, right? And I always use my son's gym example, right? It's like going to the gym. He was undersized. I'm only 5 feet and I weigh like 100 pounds. So I have 3 boys and I'm always like, I'm so sorry. I am your problem. It is me. It is my genetics that have not ruined your life. But he was the underdog, right? And he got sick of getting cut from the team because he got sized out of basketball and it just ticked him off. It ticked him off enough that he did something about it. And that's the other thing that you see agents say, like, oh, I'm desperate for deals. Really? Really? Are you? Because you're not working like you're desperate for deals. If you're desperate for deals, you're calling 10 expireds every day. You're sitting 4 open houses on a weekend. You're literally like, you are out scrapping. If you're not working like that, you're not actually that frustrated. You're just not. And so, but what happens is it's like you go to the gym and the first day, like, have you seen those reels where guys like start at the gym and they wear the same shirt and you can see them like outgrow the shirt? Like what I would give for that same shirt that he started out in, because you start out and you're like lifting 5-pound weights. And then over time, your capacity actually increases. And so I think agents are like, oh, well, I want to have a business like Amy's. Okay, but you have to start at the start. And the start is just doing the 5-pound weights, because you can't expect to bench 250 if you can't bench 100. Like you have to bench 100 first. And this is the other thing is it's like, your muscles literally have to break in order to like rebuild stronger. And so my business is constantly breaking. That's a great problem to have. Like your business breaking is a great problem to have because it means it's growing and then you get to like rebuild it. And I think instead agents like get panicked and they're like, oh my gosh, I got to go like do this thing over here. And you're like, no, you should rebuild it different. Don't build it the same way because you're rebuilding it with the same amount of capacity and you have to like increase its capacity.
Yeah.
No.
Like breaking shit.
Yeah, it's really good. So Amy, where does your fire come from? Like what keeps you lit? And you've adopted this, you have this I'm going on vacation tomorrow type of sense of urgency. And if you've been able to tap in and bottle that, right? We've all been there, right? Shit, I got stuff I have to do. I'm going on vacation tomorrow. I'm leaving the flights. Like I have no choice. This has to be get done. Okay. This can wait. Mm-hmm. Where is that fire and that sense of urgency? Where do you tap into that for you?
I didn't have a choice. Right. So when you think about it, my husband was going to work, corporate America, big 4 accounting firms, so smart, has an MBA. I was like a C student, ADHD kid. I'm like, I don't know. Does that really matter? That doesn't really matter. But I also have this ability to like hyper focus my brain. And you have to understand like where your strengths and weaknesses are, right? So there's certain things that like my husband does, like literally my husband schedules my dentist appointments and put them on my calendar because I won't do it. I just will not do it. You know what I mean? And so he knows like, I got to make sure Amy does these things because she won't stop to do those things. But I think what people do is they give themselves 10 years to build a business that should take 6 months. And so one of the things about it is I always had time constraints. So like I had a 2-hour window when my kid was at preschool. So those constraints will always lead to creative problem solving, innovation, and efficiency, which is what grows your business. So I still work part-time hours. I still take a month off in the summer because those time constraints make me work harder in my pockets. And then also like done is better than perfect. Like I've never had a perfect launch. I've never had a website that works perfectly. I launch it and then I'm like, crap, I got to go fix that. right? And people want to sit and like get an analysis paralysis, and it's like, go. Just launch the thing. Just go. And then you know exactly what works and doesn't work as opposed to like analyzing it. So, and I actually think when we look back at like 2020, we saw that people all of a sudden had different constraints on their time. And suddenly we saw a lot of creative problem solving. We saw a lot of innovation. We saw a lot of efficiency because people had constraints. And I realized like that. I remember telling my husband when he started working from home and he was like going to go in my office and like work from 8 to 5 or something. And I was like, no, that's actually not what you were doing. You're going to get up at 5 and you're going to work from 5 to 8. And then I'm going to need your help with the kids. So then I'm going to work from 8 to 10. And then you can get back in the office. Like I was like, oh, buckle up, Buttercup. This is my world. And like, you're going to have to work, like you're going to have to move in those 2 hours, which forces you to make a decision. You have to decide. And that's the number one thing people don't do. They just don't decide. Oh, I'll decide tomorrow. I'll keep looking at that. And it's like your lack of decision is the decision. The faster you make a decision, the sooner you know it was the right one or not.
Yeah.
Half the time it's not the right one. Like literally half the time it's not the right one. But then you can course correct so quickly because you're like, oh, well, now I know. So now I can go double down on this because I know it is the right one.
But I think you nailed it with what you just said, because it's the analysis paralysis. I've been victim to that myself where, you know, I'm trying to get it perfect before we launch this or before we do that or before I make the post or whatever it is. And I've had to struggle to get out of that mindset to just do it. Let's just, it may not be perfect. Let's just move forward. Let's do it. Making that decision. But a lot of people get stuck there. So I'm glad that you brought that up. I'm curious, just as we close this up here, and I really appreciate your time. What are you most excited about in 2025 with your personal business? Like, what do you got cooking that we all need to know about?
Oh, I got a lot cooking. One, digital products are so fun. I have like listing presentations for agents. I have a background in graphic design, and I'm actually a great writer. I was always like a really good English student. So it's really like the copywriting and the graphic design. And I made it. I showed it on social media, and people freaked out about it. And I was like, oh, well, here I can give you that resource. So digital products have been really, really fun for me. Loving that. We have a big agent event in April in Scottsdale. We'll have about 350 agents coming. You guys probably don't even know that I've done hotel events because it's my audience is not your audience, which is the greatest thing is I get to just kind of work covertly under the scenes. We have a big agent event in April that's coming up. And I have a few things up my sleeve that we're going to be launching. But again, it's always about like that long-term residual revenue stream and continuing to like build that. And social media has always been the best player inside those opportunities.
Yeah. So if someone wants to attend this Arizona event, how would one get the information?
You just want to follow me on Instagram at Amy Gregory. Like, honestly, this is why I don't have a business card. I don't have a business card. Like, you come follow me on Instagram and you're going to, like, you have the whole portfolio is right there. Everything you need is right there. So if you're a female solo agent and you're needing like support inside your business, I got you.
Love it. Follow this lady. You will not only be entertained, you're going to be educated. You're going to be inspired. That's for me when I was sitting next to John Kitchens in Detroit watching you throw this amazing presentation. And I was like, this energy is infectious. Uh-huh. And you really did. You had a huge impact. And I believe you probably have an impact on more people than you even know. So we appreciate your contribution to the company and to all the agents, no matter, you know, you're affecting agents from different brands, not just EXP too. So thank you for that. And,
thank you so much for having me. And honestly, like being inside your guys' room informed so much of my business. Right. And so it's even though we build differently, you can learn from everyone. So like get in the rooms with people that have just built impressive businesses, whether you want to build a similar business or not. That's been such a key piece inside my growth. So thank you.
We appreciate you. Thanks for coming on today.
Anytime.
Follow Amy on Instagram and follow Amy Gregory. She's amazing. Thank you, John. Thank you, Jay.
Yep.
Have a good week, everybody.
See you guys. Thank you.
Guys.
See you. That's a wrap for today. I hope you got something valuable from this episode. If you did, hit follow and visit johnkitchens.coach for more ways we can work together. See you on the next episode.